we go. Alrighty, well thanks everybody for showing up. My name's Sean. I'm a business advisor at Odoo. Basically I work in the direct sales department. And today we are going to be talking about the new rentals application. So for the presentation, we only have like 20 minutes, so I'm not going to get too much into detail. What my goal is really is just to kind of walk you guys through a basic flow of the new application. And hopefully by the end of it, everyone has a pretty good understanding of its capabilities. So we're just going to jump right in. And I have a demo database already set up. And the really cool thing about the rentals application is that renting things out in Odoo has kind of been a tough spot in the last couple of years. It's been hard to keep track of the inventory. Once you kind of move it out of your inventory, in Odoo's mind, it kind of disappeared. So that's the new solution that the rentals app brings, is that now you're being able to keep track of that inventory, whether it's at your location, whether it's at a customer location, wherever it is, without ever having it disappear entirely. And the other cool thing about rentals application is it's a really kind of a standalone app. You don't really have to do too much switching back and forth. I can basically do an entire flow within the rentals application without ever having to come out of it. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. And this is your rentals app dashboard right here. So from here, you're able to see all of your different rental operations that are ongoing right now, whether they are in the quotation, whether they're reserved, whether they're at a customer location, or whether they've already been completed. We can alter this view using the search bar up here. So if we wanted to only see things due today, or things that have only been picked up, or things that are completed, we can go ahead and filter it down. And we can also kind of morph this data that we see. So we can go ahead and switch between, this is called the Kanban view. I call it like the easy on the eyes view. You can kind of get a quick snapshot of the customer, the sales order number, what stage it is, how much money it is. But obviously if you have 1,000, a list view might work better for you. And we also have a really cool new feature now, the calendar view. It gives you a really nice and clean look of the different dates for your different rental pickups. And we also can get a little bit into reporting if we go down the line here. So starting kind of just from the starting point, we'll go ahead and just set up a rental product really quick. So if we jump into products, right now we're in our master product list actually, but since we're in the rental application, it's going to default to only the products that can be rented, which is a really quick time saver. And we're going to go ahead and create a new one really quick. So just for the sake of the demo, we'll just call it rental product, keep it really simple. Again, if you guys are familiar with Odoo, this looks exactly the same as just your normal product configurator. But there's a little new box here once you have the rental app installed in the database that you add can be rented, and then it gives you a new tab down here as well. But for the most part, everything else, general information, variants, your invoicing policy, your inventory routes, and your traceability is all going to be the same. So make sure that the can be rented is clicked. This will pop up. And then down here is where we're going to set up pricing for the rental product. So we can set up duration prices. So every day this is going to cost the customer $50, and Odoo will automatically do that math for you. You can change the duration between days, weeks, months, depending on what you are doing. We'll just leave it at days for the demo. And then over here is a really cool feature that basically that Odoo is going to do the time tracking for you automatically. And you can tell Odoo, hey, if this customer brings this rental back late or needs to keep it extra days or whatever the case may be, if it goes past the initial quoted time duration, Odoo will automatically add a set amount to the invoice. So we can do an extra hour, we can do an extra day, and then the last field here is a security time. So if you need extra time to prepare the rental product, you can tell Odoo to reserve it for extra amount of time before it needs to be picked up. Second piece of this is I'm going to go ahead and turn on unique serial numbers, because in most rental businesses, I would feel that you would need to keep track of each individual product, and the rental application is integrated fully with this traceability, so it's a really neat feature that we'll see in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and save this now. I think everything's set up. Yeah. And then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to create a rental quotation now. So again, we're still inside the rental app. We've now set up our product to be rented, and we're ready to actually rent it to a customer. So we can go ahead and create a new one. And we're going to choose a customer really quick. I'm just going to choose a new customer just for the demo purpose. Just create it on the fly. Just like our normal sales application, again, if you're familiar with Odoo, this looks virtually exactly the same, except it lives inside the rental application instead of sales. So you can have same features, quotation templates, you can set your expiration date, and you can set your payment terms. We'll go ahead and add that rental product to the quotation now. And real quick, I just remembered that we actually, because we created that product, we don't have any existing yet, so let's just really quickly update our quantity. And since we have that traceability option turned on, it's going to make us apply a lot/serial number. So we'll go ahead and just give it a really easy one. I'll just make a new lot or a new serial number just called 1. It's going to automatically update it to 1 on hand with this serial number. And then we'll go ahead and make another one real quick. So now we have 2 rental products in our inventory with the corresponding serial numbers. So now we'll go back and we'll go ahead and create that quote to new customer. We'll add that product, rental product. And this is a new feature that's not in the sales application. A little pop-up is going to show here after we click this. And this is basically like an interactive menu here where I can basically tell Odoo, the date range for how long I'm renting it. I can tell it the quantity of how much I'm renting it. And you can see we have in parentheses how many units are available because this is tied directly into the inventory application. And we also are required to choose a serial number, since the only 2 that are in inventory are both attached to a serial number. So we can go ahead and choose serial number 1. And we'll do a date range of today until next Wednesday. We'll click apply. And then down here, you can also do an exact time if you wanted. And we'll click add. And from here, again, if you're familiar with Odoo, this is very similar to the sales application. You can go ahead and send this out in an email using our chatter feature. You can go ahead and give the customer a preview of this where they can view the quotation online. They can have the ability to sign and pay. They can have the ability to communicate back and forth with you. All the exact same to the sales application. And you can see that Odoo also automatically added that price based off the date range that we gave it. So from here, we'll pretend we call the customer, we give them the quotation, whether they're in the store, you're doing phone sales, however you're doing this. Customer says okay, they agree. They can either pay now, again, depending entirely up to the business, if they're going to invoice them after, if they're going to wait for any of those extra charges to come through, or if they require a down payment. You can handle all of that the same way that you would with just a normal sale, but we'll just go ahead and confirm this right now. And what this just did, as soon as we confirmed that, it automatically reserved that product for us in our inventory. So now if we were to go try to make a new rental order, nobody could go rent serial number 1 of rental product. It automatically reserved it to cut out on the human error. And this is basically queued up, waiting for us to deliver this to the customer or for the customer to come in and pick it up, either way. So we can go ahead and click pickup. And this is just another little pop-up just to make sure that the employee is going to double check, make sure they have the right one, make sure that they're giving the customer the right one. We'll click validate. And now this is moved to the stage picked up, which basically means that it's in the customer's hands now. It's out of the store, it's at the customer. And this again was all tracked using the chatter feature. And if we go back to the main menu, we can actually see that new customer is in stage picked up, and it's telling us when the late return date would be for this customer. And then I think if we go to counter view, let's see if we do a month. It didn't pop up yet. You can look at the sales order, but it should have had a GAN view here. One cool thing that I do want to show really quick, just kind of showing that integration with the inventory, is if we go into inventory and run a inventory report, we can actually see the physical product move of that rental product and that it's actually out of our inventory now. So if we kill this filter and group by location, we can see that we have one rental product, we have serial number 2, still in our warehouse main stock, but we actually have a new location now called rental where serial number 1 is located. So we can actually see that change in product move. And if we went to just regular product move menu and looked at rental product, you can see that it went from warehouse regular stock to that rental location. So going back into the rental app, we go back to that order here, the new customer order. Obviously, at the end of the date range that you rented the product, you can now, from here, return the product. Again, it's going to tell the employee, double check, like, hey, is this the right one? Is this the one that you had given them? This is the serial number, and it's going to ask them to validate it, which is, again, going to get recorded in the chatter. And then from here, that's basically a full rental cycle. So I reserved the product, I rented it out, they brought it back, or I picked it up, however you do it, and now the product is back in our inventory. So if we go back into inventory really quick, you can see that that rental location, there's no stock in it because it moved back into our main warehouse stock. And then from here, just like a normal sales application, we can go ahead and create an invoice. You can either invoice the full amount, you can do a down payment, just the exact same as any other sale. And that is pretty much just a very simple full rental cycle in Odoo. You also get, just like most of the other applications, you get built in, you can go ahead and do a schedule in the app. This is where the Gantt chart lives by product. So I can go ahead and reserve it out in the future. I can see where it's reserved now. I can do different time ranges, so day, week, month, or year. I can also do different reporting in the rentals application. So I can either do just overall orders, I can do it by customer, I can do it by product to kind of forecast busy and slow times for my business. And again, we always have the pivot table available. So it's pretty much all I had prepared. So we can just open it up right now for any kind of Q&A.
Hi. Everything I've seen so far yesterday and today regarding rental has been about products, physical products. But I saw on your report that there was a meeting room. That's actually what I'm most interested in is reserving meeting rooms and event spaces, that sort of thing. Is there much nuance, difference in how you do it, or because it's not a product, physical product?
Well, in terms of Odoo, not that much of a difference in terms of like everything I just did. You do the exact same thing. You could set it up as a rental service, but I think to keep track of, let's say, that meeting room, right? You wouldn't ever want to double book the meeting room. So it might make more sense to just keep it as a store product and just give that meeting room like a same thing, like a serial number, so that you could see when that room is being rented, when it's not being rented. But everything else would be exactly the same. Yeah.
After I rent something, how do I know when I rented something for a week? I want to know what I will have available for next week. is it going to show as available next week?
Based off the schedule planning, I would say it would, but we can honestly check it out really quick if we make a new rental order. We'll do new customer again, and we'll do, what was that, rental product? So we'll go ahead and use serial number 1, and we'll do a time range of, like you said, so we'll do, we'll do 1 week. And I think I'm understanding your question correctly, but if we go ahead and add this, confirm it, and then I try to make a new order, let's see.
Starting on the 14th, is it going to be available?
Let's pick it up just to do the product move. Okay, we'll create a new one. Let's see. Yep, looks like it will.
Okay. And is there a graphic way of knowing what I'm going to have when?
So the different graphs that we would have available are, let me get out of this, would be our schedule view right here. So you'll be able to see the sales order number and the customer. That doesn't really give you too much of a, or it does give you the product over here actually. So I would be able to see the product. For rental product. The only other like graph view like that we would have would just be the regular calendar, but it groups all the SOs on when they were confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might be a little bit of customization or like some studio work.
Okay, if I have to have a product that needs service because it broke, how do I put that off, that it cannot be used and that I know where it is?
So like goes to a different location in your inventory. Let's see. Let me return this one really quick so we have it back in our inventory. Let me double check, make sure it is back. Yep, okay. So to basically like put it out of commission, set it aside, I think that you would just have to do an internal transfer. Let me turn on locations really quick. And we'll do out of commission. Okay, let me see if this will work. Internal transfer, destination. I'm actually thinking this won't work. I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe I'll think about it, and then I can like find you later today, or you can like shoot me an email, and we can try to figure it out.
Okay, thanks. And that field, when you created the product, you had like a field that was, I think, service.
Mm-hmm.
What is that for? I didn't understand.
So kind of going back to like his question. So like if you rent like a meeting room, or you rent something that's
Not a product, but a service.
Yeah, but in some cases, like I was explaining, it might make more sense to label it a store product anyway, just to keep track of it.
And when you create a product on any other module, you will have the option of doing it as a rental as well? You would have the checkbox?
Yep. If we go back into here, so this product list, it's just defaulted to this filter, but if we kill the filter actually, this is just our normal product list. This is the same as being an inventory or sales.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So the regular products that are not already selected as can be rented, can you have them as both? Or do you have to have, if you sell and rent a product, you have to have them as two separate part numbers?
No, I believe you can have them as both. Let me see. Yeah, so if I were to go into like the sales application, for example, and add this to a quotation, if I look up that rental product, this will now just sell it. It's no rental, I don't get that pop-up, it's not gonna be any kind of duration of time. This is just me gonna sell it, normal classic Odoo sale.
Okay. And then my second question, we've had some customization to where we can see all the serial numbers under an account field. Would there be any way to differentiate between those that are rental products and those that are just regular sale products on the serial number level?
I think if you wanted that distinction, you would probably be better off with two separate SKUs.
Okay.
When you rent something in the accounting, the product is still yours, but you are renting it. How does that reflect in the accounting?
In terms of like an inventory valuation,
Because when you sell something,
it's out the inventory.
yes, it takes it out. When you rent it, how does it reflect the accounting?
That's a good question. I'm not too much of like an accounting expert, to be honest with you. Because it's still in your actual inventory, like when we do the inventory report, it's just in a different location, but still in your inventory, I would imagine that it's the same. It doesn't take into account really it being rented or like out of your inventory. That's another one that maybe we should follow up later today and I can find a better answer for you. Oh, alrighty, I think we are out of time. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions or think of anything, my name's Sean, like I said, I'll be running around today. Also, my email is she@odoo.com, so feel free to shoot me an email and I could try to get you guys an answer before the end of the day. But thank you so much for coming.
Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Mader. I'm the president of Open Source Integrators. We've been an Odoo partner since 2011, and we're the first gold partner in North America, so go Odoo. Happy about the success, and happy to be part of this family. I'm going to talk today about advanced sales and analysis and predictive technology. How many of you saw our talk yesterday about CRM? Yes, okay. And were you revved up? Were you ready to go kill Salesforce? Yes? Okay. Good job, Rich. That was the intent. This is definitely meant to be a bit of a follow-on to that discussion on CRM and expand on that a little bit and what do you do with that data as you create it. So there's kind of a general progression of customer and sales data with what you do with it as organizations develop maturity and explore the capabilities. And I'm trying to demonstrate this with this slide here, that you can understand the most basic thing is business intelligence. So what did we sell today? If you really get fancy, who did we sell it to? A few other things that might be of, just to tell you what happened in that day. The more interesting questions happen as you start going up in the progression of this life cycle here. So going to why did it happen, and defining performance drivers, some sort of correlation and causation. I have a question here right now. So anybody notice it's a little cold outside today? If you were selling ice cream down by the water, do you think today would be a great sales day for ice cream? No. Why not? Because it's dang cold out, right? So yeah, there's some causation and correlation there. And it turns out that there's a lot of seasonality that does go into sales. We know that. But even things like weather conditions and so forth will impact sales. And if we know that, maybe we switch from ice cream to selling hot chocolate or coffee out by the water, right? So those are, this continues. So going to the next step of prediction, what if we were to look at the weather forecast and say, oh, it's going to be cold tomorrow, and cold on Friday, but on the weekend it's supposed to warm up to about 85 degrees. How would that change what we're going to sell? Yes, you get it. I like giving this as very simple sorts of, some simple examples here. Let's get to the last one of optimization. When's Dreamforce, Rich?
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now. So what if I know it's going to be really cold outside the Moscone Center in 2 weeks? What should I be doing for my optimization of sales? Maybe I should have 5 or 6 carts and I'm selling beverages that are appropriate for that temperature. So that's really where you get to the what should happen. And knowing that, I can even get to the point of, I'm pretty sure I can get like 2% of the people going into the Moscone Center to buy my coffee or tea or hot chocolate. And if I can get 2% of that sales, that equals $10 million. I don't know what the number is going to be. But there is this sense of progression, right? And I think that's pretty important. We as ERP professionals are collecting this data. It's up to us to decide what we're going to do with it going forward. And that's my challenge I'm going to try to put out here for this discussion. For most of our customers, when they're starting out, this is what it looks like when they're thinking of their customers. They really can't discern who's buying their product or why. They know that they have a market, but they can't necessarily tell who those people in the market are. Through very standard analytical procedures, we can start to add some clarity here. We can start to score and segment, some scoring and segmenting to start to find our best customers. A simple thing is, how many repeat orders show me every customer that's bought more than once from us. That's perhaps the simplest thing to be able to start. Maybe some segmentation. Are there places that they live or locations that we can discern from this as well? From this, we can get to this next idea, and again, trying to go up the evolutionary scale. What happened is where we're at right now. What do we think could happen going forward? Starts with profiling and segmenting to find other great customers. So that's where if we know some percentage of customers live in the Bay Area of California and they like our product, what other areas are like the Bay Area in terms of demographics? Well, maybe we should be looking at Portland or Seattle as similar sorts of markets with similar and maybe the same messaging and product mix is the right fit for them. So that's, I really thought about this. How many of you like really complicated charts showing the diagramming of data flows and service buses and things like that? Anybody like those sort of charts? Yes? Yes? Okay. Anybody not like those? Okay. I went with the not like those. So I went with the simplest data flow chart ever. We are, the way we've done this is that we are extracting data from Odoo, doing a little bit of organization, and then using Jupyter as our analytics engine for an awful lot of this. We also are using ArcGIS and QGIS as ways for visualization of some of the maps too, and I'm going to show those at the end. Okay. So let's talk about this with something that shows, again, tries to make this a little bit more tangible. This is a customer of ours. They sell a product to, let's call it an enthusiast community, and we want to really understand where their customers were and maybe some demographics about it. There's some interesting similarities. We were able to discern down to the zip code level that we received a large profit and a quantity of over 1,400 sales in one specific zip code. Similarly, over 1,400 in the next zip code underneath it. You get the point. I don't think sales number is necessarily the best one. That's why we're also looking at profit as well. To tell us which markets, even if we weren't necessarily getting the highest sales, were the most profitable. We noticed a few things here. So in Portland, Oregon, slightly higher than the average income. One in suburb of Detroit, another one in Seattle. And I'll just tell you, this customer of ours deals in musical instrument gear. And we noticed some things about that. Like as we drilled in, it was also kind of younger, maybe a little bit more well-educated, and had disposable income to be able to buy, musical instrument products. So, and Wolfgang's smiling about that. So, we took it to the next step of actually trying to map this as well. And with this, we plotted this map, and this was used. We have a direct sales channel as well as a indirect sales channel. This is just using our direct or our indirect channel, going through a number of dealers. So these vendors, we did this through the GeoPandas library. One thing that was really interesting that I think you can see, California and New York stand out as our most profitable locations. And why? Well, for one thing, they have large populations. We also noticed that and we could kind of tell that these profits are constrained to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York City. So unfortunately, Sacramento's not buying a lot of our products. Maybe that's something we can work on. Other large urban areas like Seattle, Portland, Chicago, and Detroit have large profitable shops there as well. I personally live in Arizona, and I was a little disappointed to see that my state was not well represented. So I take that as a mission to try to help my customer on this. Okay. So why is this interesting? Well, we really are trying to get to this predictive sort of thing. We've identified where our customers are and who our customers look like, and based on this knowledge, we tried to connect the next dot of, okay, what would it look like for a new product or existing products even? Can we predict our profits? Yes, we can. We're using an exponential smoothing algorithm here, and with that, we can come up with some sort of forecast for profits. And this is based on all of our product lines, not just one. We have an upper bound, kind of a forecast that we think is pretty good, and we have a lower bound here. And with this, we can start to ask, again, based on what do we know so far, where people are located, what kinds of customers buy from us, we can take it to this next level and actually come up with predictive analysis. How would this affect product development? Anybody here ever have to get involved with thinking about new products in their company? Okay. How do you do that now? Or how did you do it? Is there any, and you don't have to give me like a whole bunch about it. I'll repeat it back for the microphone here. Just somebody's opinion. That's the most common way of product development. How did that work? Okay, depends how long it takes you to get the product to market. Did it feel fun or comfortable to go with somebody's opinion? No, it feels kind of uncomfortable, doesn't it? Like you're kind of making a big bet on something you're not sure if it's going to work. Any other experience on product development?
Yeah, it also depends on what distribution channels you've already developed. So you develop a product that fits the distribution channel that you have access to.
Okay, that's a brilliant statement. So I'm saying this out loud again for the microphone. Developing a product, a new product that fits within the distribution channels you've already established. So if you're already like a wholesale business-to-business sort of company, you'd find other products that you can develop and sell that would continue, maybe augment or supplement existing products.
Correct. But if you have a distribution channel towards a certain demographic,
Yes.
so you develop products for that demographic as well.
Yes.
Kind of what I guess we'll ask questions after, but I have some questions for you on how you develop the data that goes into the prediction in terms of, so like you're in Arizona.
Yep.
Now there may be a large urban market in Arizona somewhere.
Phoenix, but yes.
Developing the distribution channel within Arizona, then you always sell more into California if that's where your money is going to. So I think like that's a huge part of how we predict scales. If you take one step back, you have to look at how are you growing your distribution channel, because product means nothing without distribution, right?
Without a doubt, and this particular customer does have like an indirect channel like I mentioned. I will tell you that they like their direct channel better, and for reasons you're immediately going to get, it's because it's a more profitable channel, and they would like to go forward trying to develop just more in that direct channel, but not cannibalize their indirect channel too. So yeah, you're right about the taking one step back, and there's a lot to this. Okay, cool. Well, this is where we actually can do something where we can do some sort of predictive analysis of what we think, to your point, and we actually did it right along the lines of your discussing, was what other products can we come up with that are going to be able to use the same channels and close enough that we, number one, aren't cannibalizing sales, but extend it and offer something new to the customer. We actually were able to do some predictive analysis for their new product that they're releasing here shortly. And with that, it's it helps us to the comfort part. We don't feel like we're flying blind when we can look at that blue line and say, as we release it, are we actually on track or off track with that next line here? So yes. Okay. This is some raw numbers here, but we actually were able to do some forecasting based on seasonality, sales growth, and it allowed us to also make some guesses on, like educated guesses on new products as well as marketing. By doing this, we are able to take out not all the risk, but a lot of the risk, and it feels like it's a more mature company and more mature process by going with this predictive approach. Short version, everybody's happy, everybody sleeps better at night. And we can go forward knowing that we're going to be more aligned with what our customers want. So, with that, questions? I've got a few minutes here, I believe. No questions.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out your model of what is the data source? Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how do you pull the data that goes into your modeling, right? Like
Sure.
To predict sales, it's kind of like more of an art than it is science, I guess. So you really have to be picky about where you pick that data source from and what are the data sources that you're getting that you're going to measure to go into your model.
sure. I'd argue it's more of a science and less of an art now than it's ever been in the past. I'm not saying there isn't art to it. But data analytics has come along to the point now where there's a number of different ways to do it. What we used in this was well, let me tell you what we didn't use. I hate Bayesian forecasting, so we did not use a Bayesian approach here. I'm happy to get into more and talk about it, but yeah, we tried very hard to use a forecasting approach that we felt was based on real historical data and be able to go out in a direction that we could feel comfortable with, not just a complete guess. So happy to talk to you more about it, and if you give me your contact info, happy to be in touch. So, what else? Oh, here comes the microphone. We're so formal here. We have a microphone now. Look at us.
I was just curious if everything happens offline so that Odoo essentially functions as the collector of the source of truth and historical events, right? It comes out into a Jupyter notebook, right? Is there any kind of integration to feed that back in to help show those projections, or this completely offline process?
Great question. Our next step is to bring some of this back into Odoo so that we can do some of the forecasts, tracking the forecast back in Odoo. But yeah, up to this point, we've just been doing it offline in Jupyter Notebook. So yeah. It's like a lot of things, it's one step forward at a time as we were able to progress this ourselves. Going back to hang on, this idea. I can't jump a company up to that level of maturity to the red bubble all in one step here, so it's one piece at a time. Cool. What else? Okay. Yes, sir. There comes the microphone.
Hi, so I really liked what you showed with the predictive analysis. But one question I have is, it's easy. Well, you can do predictive analysis, but how do you measure the accuracy of it? So do you actually measure the accuracy of your forecast? And if you give some insight, how do you do that?
Sure. We're in the process of coming up with those measurement tools right now based on sales. And the way we're doing it is actually, to that idea of a map, we're actually using a geographic approach to try to take it at a smaller market. And if we can meet the goals in one market, then that's a small enough measurable piece that we can then extrapolate that the techniques are going to work and that the prediction is accurate to whatever percentage going forward to other markets as well. Make sense? Okay. Yeah, it's a divide and conquer problem. If you think about the masses of data that's possible, and it would be too hard to see the signal in that noise. To kind of a bigger point here, a really smart person some time ago pointed me in the direction, hang on when I say this, into electrical engineering with the signal to noise ratio tools and algorithms that are involved there to be able to try to dig out signal when you are getting, when you're trying to find out are you staying on track with that trend or not. So there you go. And I haven't done this yet, but that's my weekend project, I suppose. So cool. What else, guys? And girls? Girl. Oh, two. Okay, thank you. 3, okay. Okay, awesome. I feel, I want to be inclusive. I'm in San Francisco, so we got to, yeah. Cool. Anything else? Okay, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
right, welcome everybody. Today we're going to be looking at planning. I'm Griffin Costello. I'm one of the business advisors here at Odoo. We're going to jump into it. How's everybody's Odoo Connect going so far? All right, rousing approval. So yeah, planning is one of our new applications. Just like all of our other apps, it integrates seamlessly across the board. Everything from your employees to your projects and also to everything else. So, agenda for today, introduction, example. One is going to be managing a restaurant. The other is you're essentially a consultant, so you're kind of doing trainings and then organizing your daily tasks, and then we will conclude with Q&A. So for kind of features and overview, the short version, forecast has now become planning. You can create shifts to manage your tasks. So this is more in the projects app. Assign them to employees, whether it be a specific shift or a project that you're on. And get a quick overview of your planning, forecasting your daily tasks. So staying organized at the high level. Plan your work and work your plan. It's always important to have this. And as a company, if you're not really staying on top of your shifts, of your tasks, with your employees, you're going to be falling behind. Ergo, losing productivity. So who can use planning? Everybody. Companies who need organized a regular schedule, whether this be maintenance for plumbers or contractors going on site to do consulting, even down to the simplest level of a restaurant, which as always is very complicated. Companies that forecast project on a long-term basis. So this might be a 6-month project, a year project, two-year project. Being able to see your actual timelines laid out in front of you is super, super helpful. And that's really going to be key to your success. Really any company. Schedule management is a basic need in every company. Even here at Odoo Connect, we use planning to make sure we're all in the right place at the right time doing what we need to do. Some of the new features in the new planning app, open shifts management, the type of role or department, so you can segment that out and you can filter it down. We'll kind of see that quick workflow going through that. Shift recurrency, template, and duplication. So I set one thing up, then I can select it a lot faster. Similar in our sales app, similar in our product forms, where we want templates. Templates make our lives quicker and more efficient. In terms of duplication, if I have a schedule from last week that I need to recreate, done easily with a click of one button. Recurrency, things that happen every month. I have a recurring shift on the first of every month to go see one of my clients. Publish your schedule. So from an employee standpoint, them being able to see the shifts that are available to them and see the shifts that have been assigned to them, whether it's a long-term project or a morning shift at a cafe. Different views, Gantt, list, calendar. Everybody kind of has their own different take on it. Personally, I like the Gantt view. Some people like the calendar. Others like that more classic Excel look. So the options are there within Odoo. Again, super nice functionality. Pill resizing, drag and drop. So if I have a project that's going to go for longer, I can extend it. Or if I double booked one of my employees or one of my consultants, I can now drag and drop that task to another employee or a different time frame. So it essentially reassigns it right away. Time off and working time integration. So my employees are only allowed to work 8 hours a day. They can't work longer than that. When you set all this up ahead of time, I use the analogy of it's dominoes. You set the first domino up and the rest happens seamlessly and automatically. Kind of the long version of the details. I'll give everybody kind of a quick second to look this over. We summarized it in the last slide. But again, a lot more detailed in terms of duplication, copy the planning the previous week with one click, forecasting your schedule across your teams. So let's keep the fun rolling here. So what we're looking at here, this is kind of an overview of the planning. Again, we're going to be in our calendar view here, looking at it for the whole course of a month in terms of filtering down and narrowing it down to specifics. Again, we're in that month. Right now, I've selected all of my employees so I can get a kind of a management level view of what's happening in my company for that month. The color coordinating has to do with specific shifts. So you can see bartenders in green, chef is in yellow, waiters in blue. Same schedule, just kind of a different view here. Again, showing what it looks like. We have our color coordination. Right now, you can filter it down, similar in all of our applications. I always say the top left is the action button. The middle is how you organize Odoo, and the top right is how you view it. Love using the filters personally. It keeps me a lot more organized in my workflow. And I know I've heard wonderful success using just simple things as a filter. Again, right now we're in our Gantt view. And I have a couple filters turned on, or we can turn those on to add even a custom filter if we need. We're looking at it, this is a little bit more of a narrow view. Last one was a month. This is a week view, so I can kind of narrow it down into specific things, or even drop down into that day view to see what's going on that actual day. We'll jump into an example here. Again, we're looking at restaurants right here. This is my blank week. I haven't scheduled anything. We don't work on Sundays, so I've set my working hours ahead of time. Again, right here, just super easy. Create a task, similar to the product form, create a new product. Similar to the sales app, create a new quote. When you create one, it's going to pull up. What I've done ahead of time is set up the planning templates. So you can see that I now have 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. for a chef's shift. I can now select that template, and it'll populate that role in there. And I can leave that unassigned or assigned to an employee. In terms of the start time and the end time, the allocated hours, this is more on a project or consulting time, so I can have a consultant working on 2 projects at the same time. Again, the planning templates here, super easy, and when you essentially make one click, the automation happens throughout Odoo. It'll populate it in the role, and I can even set this to repeat. If I know that this is the chef's role, and every single Monday I need him there from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., then I want to set this as a repeatable shift for my employees. Once you go ahead and select those, again, I'm looking at this in the calendar view, in the week, and you can see that I have all the roles selected. Let's say I have 100 employees, and I only want to see all the servers that I have and what their schedule looks like. I can narrow it down just to stay more organized for myself. From an aesthetic viewpoint, looks really nice and clean to me. Once I've gone ahead and set that, again, our filters and how we organize Odoo, I want to set that as a management view. So each week when I come in on a Sunday to make my schedule for the week or the month, I'll just click management view, right? I might have a kitchen view or another way to organize it. Similar schedule, again, we're looking at this in a little bit different view. This is the Gantt. What I have here, we have a couple open shifts. I have not assigned these to employees, so when I publish this and they get the email, and we'll see what that looks like, they can now assign that to themselves, or they can deny it and say, actually, I can't work that week. So super flexible. If you know your schedule ahead of time, then you can automatically assign it to your customers or your employees. Here's the open shift, and again, you see that it's kind of got the marked lines on it, indicating that this is not assigned to any of my employees. Once I send that schedule out, they'll get a notification in their email saying, here is your new schedule for the week. So when I now actually assign that to a specific employee for that role, for that afternoon role, excuse me, and I set it to repeat, and we'll give an example of this. And so I have the duration is for 1 week until the end of the new year. Now looking at that repeated shift throughout the calendar view, you can see that it pulled up the 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. shift, and that I repeated it all the way through the end of the year. So super nice and easy and consistent across the board there. The filter I have on is specific employees. Undefined, so I want to see all undefined employees. This is an open shift for everybody. And again, there's that repeat that all I have to do is with one click, just click the repeat button and it does that automatically for us. If I go on here, I can actually assign that to a specific employee. So by clicking on that open shift, I know when it is. I might add a note to it. So when that gets assigned to them, it says, please come a little early, or stop by the store and pick up this, or here's our project for the day. Maybe a note about the specific client that one of my employees is meeting with if they're in the consultant role. Again, I have it as undefined. Here's the extra information I can add to the employee, and I can edit that and change that to a different employee, different working hours, a lot of functionality there. So what I've narrowed down here is to look at more of a specific employee, because I want to check what my head chef is doing or what my best consultant is doing. When are they available? Again, I've turned on that filter to employee that contains chef. This could be, employee, number 1, or, top consultant, or maybe I want my best sales guy going out to one of our top prospects to make that sale, because I know that he closes deals more than anybody else. I need to check his schedule. So this is the repeated schedule on here, but a lot of functionality, and it's really up to you to decide how you use Odoo. We show you the tools that we have to offer, and you choose the tools to build your house. Looking at that repeated schedule over the course of a month, we're still in our Gantt chart view. Again, this is a super simple version of it. I might have 50 employees, so using those filters to narrow down to my specific role in my company. Again, I'm looking at it from the month, and here's that repeated event. Looking at it a little bit more specifically for the week, sorry about that. What you can see is that I actually have Chef 1 having 2 roles. You can see that under the little red indicator here, and this is where Odoo will kind of remind you and stop you and say, hey, you have this person on 2 shifts. So maybe it's one of my sales guys and they actually have 2 events that day or 2 leads coming up. Odoo wants to make sure that you know that and to either change the schedule or have the employee. If I like my schedule for that week and I want to repeat it, I can just copy the previous week, so I don't have to go through and create each week. That's time. All right, time out of my day is money out of my pocket. Again, there's the shift that is now double booked, so I need to do something about that. So I can click on it. When I click on it, it says other shifts. This employee is already at the same time. So I now need to either reassign it or just cancel this shift outright. So I can change to the employee, or I can change the role. A lot of different functionality there. So this is the reminder again that your employee is double booked. I can now change that employee, and then when I can publish and send it, once I've made those changes, all of my employees in my company or contractors, they will get notified of that. This is the notification that you'll get in your Gmail or whatever email you use. So this is actually a shift that has been assigned to chef number 1. It's super simple. You can see when, where, what I'm doing. All right, we want to keep it easy for our employees to know where they need to be. You can add this to a calendar if you want to, so you can have that reminder right there. Again, we're in Gmail. I know when and where I need to be. I'm going to be at my job and this date at that time. When they click on it for any open shifts, this is what it will look like forward-facing to your customers. So I've logged in as an employee, not necessarily a user, but what I can see is that I have other shifts available to me. So if I have a lot of servers and I want that functionality there, let people pick. All right, we want to be flexible as management to understand that people have a lot of things going on in their life. They might, have things scheduled out for next month, maybe a wedding, maybe a birthday. If you, let's say, one of your employees gets sick, then they can unassign themselves one of the shifts, so that you now get notified, and that turns into an open shift that any of your other employees can now pick up at that time. So here's my shift, again, looking at it from a calendar standpoint. Aesthetically, it looks very pleasing and simple to your employees. I can pick up the shift. Once I assign it, it'll show on my calendar right there. and it'll pop up for that day, and I can now see that right there. So if I have 2 booked, like I did earlier, Odoo wants to make sure that you know this and that your employees know this, and they can now unassign themselves from that shift. They can't reassign it based on the admin rules that you've established for them as an employee, not necessarily as a user. Again, once I've double booked there, you can click on it, and I can now, from a management standpoint, just take off that employee, and that'll be reflected on his or her schedule. So there's the employee. We would delete them from there. I could reassign it to another employee using the drop-down. And then once I save it, I can publish and send it, or just publish it outright. Those changes will be made right here. And that's kind of the example of the restaurant. More on a long-term project basis, this is for like tech coaching, let's call it. So I have projects that last about 100 hours worth of implementation or consulting or e-learning or training. So these are long-term projects that I need to now, again, I've used that template. These are my working hours for my consultants when they're actually on these projects. There's a specific project. So all of our apps integrate with one another. So when I sold a product, meaning a pack of 100 hours to our customer, that triggered an automatic task and an automatic project to be created. From there, I can now link our planning application to that specific task or that project. So within our chatter, I can have cross-communication, being able to now pull out from there in an external link to see what that tech coaching project is all about. Again, just keeps us really organized and a great way to visually stay on top of what we need to do. In terms of allocated hours, I might have employees that are working on 2 projects at the same time. So I don't want 100% of their time dedicated to one project. So I'll say you're going to work half the day on tech coaching on this specific project for level 1, and you can see there's a source document under the task. Once you pull up that actual task within there, because again, we've linked all of our apps together. So I now click on my schedule time. That pulls me over to the projects app. I click on the projects. I can now start logging all of our time. So this brings in timesheets, HR, payroll, everything that's integrated with Odoo. We've seen this before. Raise your hand if you've used the projects application. 1, 2, all right, so almost everybody here. We know what this looks like. It's comfortable, all right? This is now just an extra integration with the planning application. So these are open tasks. Again, I've started the timer on this actual project so that I can log my time so I, as the employee, can get paid. And at the management level, they know that I've been putting in the time for this project. So start and stop there. I can pause it at any time if I take a lunch break. Again, this is a specific task that we're on. You can now log those notes. You can go at the tabs below, description, timesheet, extra info. You can add a PDF or a screenshot of a conversation, whatever you need to do within the app. Again, there's that time. That's going to log back to my timesheet. So when I click there and my manager sees that I put in 2.5 hours on that specific day for that specific project, we know that it's a 100-hour project, so we have to keep track of our time accurately. Looking at the project from a long-term standpoint, I mentioned this. You can see that I have 2 kind of coaches assigned to this. I have the green and the blue. I have one project that lasts for about 3 weeks and the other one that lasts over a month. I can now see where I have in the calendar view. Again, for long-term projects, aesthetically, this might be a little bit more appealing to you. We show you the tools. You decide what tools you need to build your house. Looking at it from the month, I might narrow down for a specific week if I need to. And again, if I need to actually extend this project out, meaning that we missed a day or the deadline got pushed out for something, drag and drop functionality. I can pull that project out. It'll extend hours within it. And now my coach 1 knows that he has a little bit more time on this project. This is an open project. We're going to look at it kind of from a different view. Again, I have that shift. What I've done here is I've allocated half the time for this specific shift for that coach 1, because I now need them working on 2 projects simultaneously. So I've selected my employee. I will bring in the specific project that they're going to be working on, and I've now dedicated a certain amount of their time to that project. Once I save and publish it, they'll get notified of it, as we saw before, and you can see here. So we have our shift number 1, our coach 1 working on that project, and we have coach 1 working on the second project at the same time. There is an overlap, so Odoo says there is an overlap, be careful of that. But again, if I need to drag that to move it over, I can drag it within the Gantt view, calendar view, essentially any and all of them. As always, we love Studio. All right, customizing Odoo is one of the biggest strengths of it. So pulling in Studio is kind of a quick example here. What I've done is I've added, again, there's our Studio tool. I want to display the total row. This is a small, specific example of what's possible. Let's get a little clap if you've used Studio before. All right, so we all know Studio. We all like it. We feel comfortable with it. That changes the functionality of Odoo and makes it even stronger. So by bringing in Studio, I've now added the total display row below, and you'll see that because I need to see how many projects are going on. This helps with forecasting going forward. I can see that in mid-November, I am swamped with projects, so I can't take any on right now, so I can't deliver those to my customers. So I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I want to underpromise and overdeliver. I want time frames to be accurate. Again, once we go ahead and hit close, we're going to see what that looks like. So again, it looks like in the middle of November, I have 3 projects going. So I don't want to schedule anything that's going to start around there. I want to start it towards the end of the month, and you can see that at the end of November, I now have 1 project because 1 has ended. Again, this is a small version, kind of a small example of what's possible. Right now in my company, I only have 2 tech coaches. What if I had 100 tech coaches? What if I had 500 projects going on at the same time? How do I filter that down and stay organized from a management standpoint? Using Studio, using filters, and using the integration with all the apps across the board is how we be productive. Again, I can see the main project that runs for the length of it. I have an overlapping project here, and that tells me how many projects I have at one time. Kind of a simple graphical view to look at it. Reporting. Everybody needs to report on their projects, and this is kind of one of the strongest points of Odoo. We have all this data in Odoo. How do we get it out? How do I view it? How do I change the view that I have so I can see more of that data more accurately and pull out the information that I need? Again, using our filters, different graphical views. Right now I have a filter on, and looks like we are in that kind of classic graph view. So reporting, filters, and again, I have it in a specific way to view it. Top right, how do we view Odoo? Middle, how do I organize it? And now how do I actually do something with it? So I want a specific measurement there. And you can see here, these are the 3 different shifts that I have for my restaurant. This is the example. It has a little better data in this database here. But the visual element of it, I can see that one of my waiters, Doris, doesn't have a lot of shifts. She hasn't worked that much. So maybe I want to assign her a little bit more. Or I check in with her and say, hey, Doris, you didn't pick up any shifts this month. What's going on? This might be an HR issue. Right? As management, we want to be empathetic and sympathetic to our employees, and we can use data to actually see that. There's been a change to Doris' status and what she's done for my company. Again, just a different way to look at Odoo aesthetically. Some people like graphs, some people like pie charts. How do you want to use the tools that we are offering for you? Different view, more filters, and again, Odoo's graphs. What can planning be used on? As always, laptop, smart tablet, or iPhone. Raise your hand if you have an iPhone. Everybody, all right? So all my employees, when they access their email, right, they can open up as my users. If they're users as my consultants, they can now have their shift management right on their phone while they're in their commute. This is convenient. This is easy. This is Odoo. Innovation. You have to be changing as a company if you're not adopting on new things. Like software, organized should be frequently refactored. So changing, all right? The internal operations without an external change. Thank you guys very much for watching Planning. Griffin Costello, if you have any questions, please find me. gco@odoo.com is my trigram and my email address. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of Odoo Connect. We have a few minutes for question and answers. Does anybody have any questions about planning?
Hi, you mentioned that you can see it on the iPhone, but do you have an Android also that employee base can see it on?
Yes. So any smart device, essentially. You have two questions on the right.
Excuse me, is it works for a schedule for a doctor? When the doctor, the consultants is half an hour, 1 hour, or something like that?
So again, that's a specific use case. It sounds like you're in the medical industry, so scheduling your doctor's appointments or having your patients, being able to interact with them. If they schedule something with you, you can now send that notification as, a patient, and they'll get notified of their appointment with that doctor. But for the doctor, he needs to stay organized and know that he has a 30-minute consultation coming up, this coming Friday. So he needs to be organized that way. So great use case there.
Hi, Griffin. I actually have two questions. So I'll be quick. So first, are the employees that are, being scheduled for shifts, in your example, the waiters, the chefs, from an Odoo standpoint, are they portal users or are they full users? And I know because it makes a difference from the licensing standpoint.
So good question. It's how you differentiate them. So if they are users, they can have access to Odoo. If they're employees, then they would be essentially forward-facing. It would be the portal. So they would now pull up to your website and be able to access their shifts that way.
Okay, so the shifts are available through the portal then for them to view.
Yes. So it can be
Great.
It can be both. It's how you want to use the tools.
Excellent, thank you. And my second question is, are the roles in any way related to a specific location? And I actually have a healthcare example too. Say you have nurses in a hospital in different wings. So the role of nurse would be the same, but their location assignment would be different. Is there anything built in at this point to differentiate that? Or how would you handle it from a implementation standpoint?
Yeah. Right off the bat, I'm not 100% sure. Just because there's a couple different ways to do it. One, you could have it as nurse and then a second actual label on that. So it'll be nurse in the West Wing, nurse East Wing. In terms of a specific location, I think that might be somewhat for an employee, where because in the employees, I can set that for their specific location, whether they work in the East Wing or the West Wing. Now, when they go to select a shift, it will know that they are only in the West Wing shifts. So a couple different ways to do that. Let's talk after, and we can work that one out a little bit more. Sure. Again, Studio is a great way to add that extra functionality where at first it wasn't there. Maybe it's a related field. So you can now start bringing in those extra elements.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry if this has actually already been answered, but is this a good target to essentially be able to take like a payroll system, right? Get an import into this and then be able to manage better in finances, maybe per department or analytical tag, where the labor's actually going on like a per hour basis?
It could be used that way. From a accounting standpoint and payroll standpoint, it really comes back to those timesheets as to who's doing what, when, where. And that's a great way to stay organized, is using the planning app linked with the projects tools, where I'm on a certain project, again, similar to manufacturing, where you have the actual time clock that you can now start to log that time that a employee has been doing work on there. So you can see how much it's cost me to pay them. From a high-level business standpoint, yeah, I mean, that is kind of the functionality there. How deep it goes, Odoo's constantly making updates. I know that when we kind of revamp the planning app, then that extra functionality might be there. Similar when we pushed out V13, a lot of new functionality in the existing apps. So we look for our customers and our users to give that feedback, and if that's something that they really want to see, then we hear it enough, then that's something that we want to implement. So thank you for the feedback, and we can pick that up a little bit after this when we end. We have two more questions.
One of the other questions that reminded me was, how does it work for those who have like overnight shifts? So if your shifts start from, like in healthcare, nurses is a good example, you could start 11 and end at 7 a.m. So it's 11 on the 8th of November, but your shift ends on the 9th of November?
So yeah, so you would set that in the, within the actual, either the role template that we looked at, or the actual working hours on that specific shift. So whether it be a one-day project or a overnight shift or a 3-month project, you would just simply set that rule ahead of time. So easily doable. Good question. Thank you.
Is this replacing the forecast functionality in projects, or how does it play together with it?
So it is, I don't want to say it's replacing the forecasting functionality in projects, but it's adding a ton to it.
I have another question. You said that it was compatible with calendars for time off and that sort of thing?
So for my employees, they can now, this would be bringing in the leaves app that we have. So if I've set that ahead of time and I know that I'm taking 2 weeks off around Christmas, as the manager, when I go ahead and make that schedule, they won't be available to schedule that shift or that project. So again, it's linking the two from what are my working hours or what are my leaves, when do I have time off, maybe I have sick days. So it's connecting both of them, and you'll get a notification of that. So great question. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Enjoy the rest of your Odoo.